I think, as with everything else, unfortunately, in society, it's a matter of how you use it. It is a, I don't know, someone will be reckless, someone will be stupid, someone will get addicted. That doesn't mean people can't use it reasonably and responsibly.
This was actually debated on TV, and one of the arguments against was, if, like, I'm not saying obviously both sexes do what they want, but personally it gives expectations for certain bodies, so there's certain ways, and it makes women feel undermined when they engage in intimacy.
What I think is that the harm of pornography is probably twofold. Firstly is that while it's obviously not harmful for people to engage in whatever they so do wish privately, but the point is that as with everything...
Whatever they wish?
Well, the point is that as with everything in society, it's dealt with in excess. People use it too much, and they're falsely educated about how that reflects how we deal with people in real life. And secondly is the way that it's completely unregulated and exists as kind of like this no man's land on the internet. At least there is abuse and slavery, practical torture in some senses, and the fact is there's not enough, in my opinion, done currently which is done to combat that and stop that from propping up all over the internet. It's far too easy to find. People don't do enough to go against it, and it's not dealt with properly in the public conscious. It's not spoken about maturely by people in public.
Who engage watching it like numerously over and over again, it becomes addictive, and they forget that it's acting, it's not real life, and that becomes their expectations in real life intimacy.
Do you think pornography addiction should be treated in even young people?
But
I
then
know it's
I
very
also
high
think
young
that some people who are in, like, celebrities, I've seen cases where they've used as an excuse, like a sex addiction. It is plausible in some cases, but sometimes just an excuse for promiscuity.
I think it's very easy for people to use pornography as basically a stand-in. See, when we're talking about the discussion of people's inability to kind of understand how sexual relationships work when they're growing up, people are taught. See, there's a much more fundamental issue with sexual education and the way that it's taught in schools, that people growing up aren't taught that they have no standard for what it is to not have this very strange...
So people are learning how to have sex from pornography, is essentially what the issue you're highlighting. Then do you think in schools, to young people, I mean, if you look at who's watching porn, 50% of children over the age of 13 have seen porn. Do you think at that age it should be taught to people in school how to have sexual liaisons, how to handle yourself in a sexual situation?
Well, I feel like we know that there are specific ages where people are moving more closely into trying to address these kind of, these questions that people face. But at the same time, like, we know that that's about the age people are wondering it, and we kind of have to cater to, we don't want people to start nurturing that education on sexuality and the way that sexual relationships are supposed to be conducted. We don't want them getting that from two actors on screen. We need to start addressing it from, if you say that it's 13 years old that people are kind of starting to watch this, then that's the age that we start teaching people that this isn't what...
If I say it's what age is the question, yourself there, Tiernan.
I think the key issue is, like a lot of other things, pornography, when it's being accessed, needs to be accessed with a degree of responsibility. There's an age limit on drinking, there is an age limit on pornography, there is an age limit on smoking, but it is so accessible. If you walk into an off-license, you get ID'd. It's very difficult to go into an off-license and buy a drink if you're under 18, but it is so easy for anyone of any age to access free pornography on the web. It needs to be limited in a way that only people who are verified by the law is responsible enough to deal with that and access it, therefore have that.
Well, the question is, pornography, like any other material, like books, like entertainment material, do you not think that on the internet it should be accessed relatively freely? Because can that argument not then be extended to other materials which perhaps people enjoy without necessarily much of a risk as pornography?
Well, a lot of movies have age limits, a lot of TV shows have age limits because they would have an overly sexualized nature. Someone who's much younger, maybe they have a completely blank perception of the idea of sex and how sex is, and if they're accessing pornography with that blank canvas, then that canvas is filled with that over-sexualized and not fairly true idea of pornography. Therefore they should probably have some form of education before they have access to that over-dramatized version of it.
Yusara?
I suppose take the debate in a bit of a different direction. Obviously, as a woman and as a feminist, I worry about, as Marie had said, the issues regarding body image and stuff that women are subjected to, and they feel inferior and whatnot. But other than that, the pornography industry in itself and the treatment of women within it is somewhat disgusting. I mean, I know there are a lot of heavily regulated segments of the pornography industry, but a lot of the porn that reaches the internet and a lot of the free porn that reaches the internet isn't produced in a wholesome way whatsoever. You have a lot of women, particularly under the influence of drugs, coercion, per pay, per working standards, and I think that you don't see that whenever you're watching porn. You don't look at that and think, oh gosh, I wonder, is she high? You know what I'm saying? But I think that it's something that's really important, and I think it needs to be discussed a wee bit more rather than just, you know, what impact does this have on us?
So do you think as well that the onus lies on the people who are actually producing this material to make sure that their actresses are well catered for 100%.
And to make sure
Some people really enjoy their jobs though in the porn industry. There have been porn stars who have done books, shows, TV shows and have said, I love my job, I do it as a career. There are straight men who have been known to do gay porn because that is their job and they get a good amount of money from that, and they live their lives like a teacher would live their lives, or like someone, a shop assistant would live their lives. They live perfectly normal lives, it's just a job.
It's like 50 Shades of Grey is a legalised film, but people could say that there is a blurred line between that and pornography because it mightn't be the same extent, but it has an age limit because the people who created the movie recognise that it isn't suitable for viewers under that age.
Well, we've had sort of very high moralistic standpoints here in the room, but statistically, a lot of us are consuming this pornography on a daily basis. So if the demand...
Sex is a taboo still though. It's sort of paradoxical because people watch porn to access sex, because they don't really have a sexual education that's absent from their life. I'm not saying that you haven't, but personally, like from my community, people don't talk about sex. Like even with, like people will go out and be promiscuous and stuff, but they'll get talked about. The girls will still get talked about for having sex, but the boys don't, and it's still an issue today.
Okay, Harry over there in the corner.
I think there's a big problem with porn, especially within teenage boys, and I think the language which is used amongst teenage boys describing women all come from porn. I know there are many cases where they don't, but having a website or multiple websites where it is degrading to some form to watch those videos online and see how women are treated. I do think there is a misogynistic tone which boys then use to describe women.
The question now that we need to ask ourselves as a group is, what do we do about online pornography? Do we ban it outright? Do we put on age restrictions? Do we allow it to occur but we have education in schools? Where is the bottom line? Where is the solution? I hope you've enjoyed the discussion. It was extremely brave for a lot of people to come out and say what they said and made their minds heard, and I hope that you'll continue this discussion in school and at home with people your age, and perhaps even venture to get involved here with us at the Top Table.
If you want to come to a Top Table debate night or even be part of the big Top Table show on BBC One, email us now, toptable@bbc.co.uk.